3, 2, 1, go! All the best, right left, please. Okay, so we're back. FTP is a special edition. It's special for many reasons. One, this is not in Bangalore. It's also special because we have
our first guest.
Yeah, our first guest.
Say hello.
Hi guys.
So that's Priya, our teammate at LBB.
So this is Equipe Goa University Crit Race, and this happens in Bambolim. It's their third year in the running, and it's a great race for people in India to experience racing in that part of the country, and a really good initiative, great roads, and a good community. So yeah, a little about the course. The course is 11.82 kilometers, and there are 3 loops of that. Priya, what's the race composition? It looks like there's a lot of boys racing with you.
Yeah, so we were just about 8 girls racing, but we had the common start with masters and amateur category. So it was a big bunch and quite chaotic.
So most of the race is smooth, but we reached this. Is this the first U-turn?
The first U-turn, and we have a crash. So we were 3 of us from LBB, me, Nanni and Steffi, and we had Blanche, Swati, Sablok, and a few other women,
right,
which we weren't aware of. So we didn't know what their riding style or strengths were.
So the most of the race was kind of not so interesting, other than a couple of attacks here and there. This is where Rohan initiates an attack, which is followed by a couple of riders, and I thought this was a point where the men's race would be segregated from the women's race, because that's a good gap, right? So, and Priya, what were you thinking around this time when the men's group started going faster up ahead?
We had been closing in all the attacks that were happening only if the women were following it. The moment there was no women trying to take off, we were chilling.
Yeah, that makes sense, because you don't have to do extra work when it's not required, right? And then eventually this gap gets brought up because it's too early into the race, and then people aren't working that hard enough. This is approaching another U-turn. Yeah, here we can see Priya, you lose a bunch of bike lengths at the U-turn. What was happening?
U-turns are not my thing. The first crash at the first U-turn had already put us on the back foot. I mean, we were very worried about the sketchy moves in the beginning that we had seen, like no hand signal, no communication. So I was like, better be safe than sorry.
Here's Steffi and Nandini, Priya, all of them riding in a single line. I think you guys decided to take the outer line.
At the start of the race, our plan was to stay tucked into the group and see how the first lap goes and then make the move. Few kilometers in the race, and we were like, we are better off taking wind on the outside.
So this tower that you see on the left is the iconic start finish for all Goa crits on the university loop, and that's like a marker. If you see the tower, that means you're closer to the finish and you should get ready for the sprint. We are still away from a loop away from.
Yeah, 11 kilometers left in the race, but you do see that the pace has picked up a little bit. Girls are in the front pulling the boys along.
Yeah, that's good to see, but also separate categories would help. What do you think, Priya?
Oh, absolutely. The complete race dynamics would have been different.
Yeah, coming up to the 5th U-turn now. Things are pretty hot. Pace is quite high. People are trying to get away, but being brought back. It's all strung out a little bit. People are suffering, whereas some people are chilling. And this is the point where, it starts getting a little bit more dangerous in the peloton, as we will soon see. So you can see we don't really know how this crash happens, presumably a touch of wheels, but 2 riders go down. And I'll just slow things down over here. The rider on the left is the rider from Shasti, and the person who is right next to his foot right now is Blanche. So you could see her front wheel actually goes over his foot and causes her back wheel to kick up. It lands at a very awkward angle, and you could see the shift of her body weight to the left. And to be fair, she did really well to keep that up. Whereas you look on the right, finding an escape route, going far right to avoid the other rider who unfortunately went down. So yeah, what were you girls thinking at this moment when you saw this happen? Because this was at pretty decent speed as well.
We knew, like Nandu and me had a fair idea, like at the U-turn gears are going to shift. And just before that, this crash happened. Took us a few seconds to recover and get back. Thankfully, at the U-turn, everybody caught up.
Okay, let's just go back to the crash. Share, you mentioned something earlier when we were reviewing the footage about what not to do when you crash.
Right. So I think one of the main things is not to immediately get up, because that's kind of you moving out on the course when riders are passing through is a very dangerous place to thing to do. On top of that, also protect your head. First thing is, if you've fallen down, stay down, protect your head. Do not get up facing the riders. That's also another place, because if somebody ends up hitting you, while you've crashed, they'll come right into your face, right? So these are like small things. Protect your head, don't face the riders, and stay down until riders have passed. Because you walking around on the course is going to just make the race more difficult for other people to maneuver around.
Yeah, something I can tell from personal experience of crashing in a race, my immediate reaction is to get in the fetal position and cover my head, because as much as the helmet protects you, the strap can snap, the helmet can go flying when a wheel touches it. So just protect your head and stay down until you are absolutely sure that everybody's gone past. But yeah, hope these guys were able to recover well. Probably hurt the next morning. So yeah, we're coming in to the last U-turn. Still, everybody seems to be together, which is crazy. I mean, the women are doing really well to stay with the masters and amateurs here.
Right. So at this point in time, how many kilometers to go? 5 kilometers?
Less than 5 kilometers.
Less than 5 kilometers to go, right?
Finally, I think one of the amateur riders decides to start pulling away, and this starts splitting up the race. And you can see people responding to that because...
Right, that's when Rohan goes on the left, the rest of the men's riders follow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So at this point, if you see, I can still see Blanche and Nandu. So I'm like, okay, women are together. It's just the three of us, and let the men go.
Right. So this entire race has been like pretty boring, very honestly. So until the last bit. Now this last bit is quite interesting, right? Now we see that the men have peeled away and they are preparing for their sprint. That leaves us with you, Blanche and Nandini, right? So Priya's already started losing wheels, which is bad news. But if you look at Blanche and Nandini, both of them are riding. I know they're trying to hold on to the men's wheels. If you're racing against your own category, one of them should get on to the other person's wheel, right? That would be the smart thing to do. And Blanche makes this move first and she gets on to Nandini's wheel. So at this point in time, I am there on the side of the road.
I have spotted him. There he is. Shaurya notices that there's a couple of bike lengths between Priya and Blanche. He screams.
I'm just asking Priya to hold the wheel because, you know, she's already doing like 240, 250 watts, just trying to get on. Then the moment she catches the draft, you see the wattage just goes like 40 watts lower, right? And we see, so here's the big mishap. Priya?
Before the race, we had checked the finish line and we had made a mental marker of that finish line. Now, when I look up and I see, okay, I know where the finish line is. So I said, let me not get onto the wheel. I take the extreme right and go for the finish line. Yeah.
And this white line is not the finish line.
Well, we thought this was the finish line and I have it. I've bagged it.
So I'm going to turn up the volume of Priya's GoPro to hear the audible as she crosses her finish line. And just pay close attention to the left hand bottom of the screen as you watch her power drop all the way down to zero as we slowly eventually do approach the actual finish line. Look at the wheel that comes through.
It's Blanche's wheel. Cosmic wheel. It was a photo finish and we have a picture of the finish and that's how close it was. That was a lucky day, Priya.
Yeah, luck by chance this win was.
So that's pretty much it, and that's how the podium looked at the end. We have another race coming up from Goa. That's the men's elite race from the same day.
That's also a special edition one.
That's also a special edition and we'll find out why it's special edition. And yeah, until next time.